Xabi Alonso, the new coach of Real Madrid. The management decided to part ways with Carlo Ancelotti. Juventus is preparing to break their transfer record and sign a superstar from Paris Saint-Germain and the Black Stripe of Bavaria from Munich. We'll discuss this and more today. Friends, this is a dose of football and a hot selection of the most interesting news to this hour. Charge your likes to the Royal and we will work without weekends. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Ruben Amorim will not come to Manchester United alone. He will take his entire coaching staff from Sporting, for which an extra €1 million will have to be paid. In total, the buyout of the Portuguese coach with his entire staff will cost the Red Devils €11 million. 10 for the coach himself and 1 for his assistants, as you might have calculated. But that's still cheap. In fact, Sporting wanted much more. The management planned to negotiate better terms for breaking the contract with the coach, who led the team to 2 championships. Sporting demanded $5 million just for the penalty. And he also wanted to get some money for the fact that the club did not warn him 30 days in advance, and he will have to urgently look for a new coach. But in Manchester now, they do not want to throw money around left and right. Where they can save, they save. They negotiated the compensation for Ahmad's assistants down to $1 million. They also left the coach in charge of the Sporting until the international break, so as not to pay compensation for the absence of a contemporary notification. And for now, Ruud van Nistelrooy is sitting in the coaching chair of MU. He started with a bright victory over Leicester, where all the players and even Casemiro tried. Don't worry about the results of other matches. It can't be worse than it was under Ten Hag. And then he will leave Manchester, keeping his promise and freeing up the post for Amorim. By the way, the Portuguese got lucky. In his debut match, he will face modest Ipswich and is on the 17th line. United is near Ipswich and is on the 17th line. United is not far from Ipswich. They can even be called neighbors in the tournament table. But they still understand the difference in the class of players, and Morim, as I have repeatedly noted, is a subtle psychologist. He can get the underdogs ready for the match, even if the stars are not on his side. Therefore, there should be no problems with Ipswich, and the Portuguese will start his journey in Manchester with victories. And if not, you can make a beautiful title for the new video. In Real Madrid, there are many strong performers. The team became weaker than itself last season due to the lack of balance. And I'm already tired of this word. Well, what to do? In short, many players have morally wilted. They no longer have the confidence that was in the last draw. I relate to such as Aurelien Tchouameni. From a versatile two-legged, capable of smelling the whole match, he turned into an incomprehensible mass, which has the same set of characteristics, but does not know how to dispose of them in the team. But I think the problem is not the player himself, but the chaos that now reigns in Madrid. Only the head coach saves the player. Ancelotti considers Tchouameni the best candidate. Only the head coach saves the player. Ancelotti sees Tchouameni as the top choice for the defender position. But the Frenchman is a destroyer, not a creator. The demand from him should be appropriate. If the leadership is wondering why Tchouameni can't play the role of an intellectual driver, so to speak, I suggest they take a closer look at the qualities that the Frenchman possesses. Nevertheless, my words will not change what the leadership thinks about the sale of the defender. Instead of him, according to Relev, Rodri might come. This footballer is in a league of their own. He appears to play the same position as Tchouameni on the field, but the tasks are completely different. Selling the Frenchman could be the first step towards restructuring, but if Xabi Alonso comes, he will need to use them correctly on the field. Look at Granit Xhaka. That's how to use them correctly on the field. Look at Granit Xhaka. This is the footballer that Arteta and all the London lobby wrote off. And he moved to a new team where he became a mental leader and shared the joy of the first championship with them. The same can be expected of Tchouameni under Alonso's leadership. Such players should not get lost in his team. However, the idea of buying a director is actually a good one. Rodri alone can fine-tune Madrid's game. This investment will be unrivaled. No Mbappes will be able to compete with Rodri in terms of influence on the team's game. He manages the match no worse than Busquets, but physically he is much stronger than Xhaka. Only after all that, Rodri will go to them, who have arranged a mess at the ceremony of awarding the Golden Ball. Personally, I wouldn't. Bavaria faces potential division this summer. It appears that Alphonso Davies is heading to Real Madrid. Yes, the Canadians are interested in the English for their victory in the fight for the fullback. Leroy Sané's contract also ends in his victory in the fight for the fullback. Leroy Sané's contract also ends. There are no rumors about negotiations for a new agreement. Munich is working in this direction, but without any serious movements. And Arsenal's shortlist, not only due to the chance of acquiring a top player from their free shortlist, not only because of the possibility of snatching a top footballer as a free agent, but also because of Mikel Arteta, the coach, a big fan of Wenger, with whom he worked at Manchester City. Newcastle United is also interested in Leroy, but unlike Arsenal, Sané is not very attracted to this option. He wants to play for a more ambitious team, at least one that satisfies Sané's participation in the Champions League. For now, Leroy's priority is Barcelona, in part because of the warm relationship between the footballer and Hansi Flick. But it's still unknown whether Blaugrana will be vying for Nick Williams next summer. Sané's financial demands are unclear, and it's uncertain if Barcelona can meet them. Transfermarkt reports that Leon Goretzka might also leave Bavaria, with Manchester United keen to have him. Moreover, MU will try to test the transfer in the winter transfer window. The Red Devils are offering just 22 million euros for the footballer. Firstly, this is because Goretzka has only 1 year left on his contract, and he's not signing a new one precisely because of this. Secondly, Leon has lost his starting place, and nothing has changed for the company. The halfback is still classy, it's just the competition. The halfback is classy, but the competition is too high. And his box-to-box role is not very much in demand in Munich. And Meramu could use a guy like that, especially considering that the coach used an 8-man in Sporting. Randall Kulomuani tore up the Bundesliga, all the grands started fighting for the Frenchman. Paris Saint-Germain's purchase of the French player ignited a battle among the grand clubs. The passenger won the battle, having paid 95 million euros. Moreover, for the transfer of Kulomuani, it even had to go into conflict with Eintracht. Now it's clear that it wasn't worth it. Kulomuani came into Luis Enrique's football and turned out to be completely out of place. And it would be okay if it was a case like with Manuel Ugarte. Uruguay signed him before Enrique's appointment. But Kulu was bought after the coach arrived. Did the supervisor really approve such a signing? The French press writes that it's all about Nasser Al-Khalifi's whims. The functionary happily ignored the needs of the coach and decided that he knows better who will be useful for the club. As a result, we got another loud transfer flop of Parisians. Enrique, an adept of positional football, relying on ball possession. Kulomuani is extremely dangerous and sees Kulomuani as a winger, while the optimal sees Kulomuani as a winger. At the same time, the optimal position for Rendal is a central forward with the freedom to move to the flank. They feel uncomfortable when he is driven into the narrow frames of one side of the field. Kulomuani constantly seeks free space. His roars behind the defender are a formidable weapon that he never took out of the sheath in Paris. Enrique forbids the footballer to rush forward as he likes. They are good at short games, but only in fast ones, moving the ball forward. And the Andres are closer to the forwards, playing most of the match with their backs to the opponent's goals. Plus, Randall's weak game in the passage speaks to his psychological weakness. The attacker admitted to facing unexpectedly intense pressure. After the game, I try not to use my phone, distancing myself from the world. There were only two situations: selling Koeman or Enrique leaving Paris Saint-Germain. There were only two situations: selling Koeman or Enrique leaving Paris Saint-Germain. According to rumors, once signed a new agreement with the coach. Randall must run from Paris. L'Equipe reports Juventus is interested in the footballer, but it's uncertain if Koeman will fit in, although likely due to Vlahovic's football style. Newcastle United is also interested in Koeman. Here it will definitely write that Koeman is interested in Newcastle United. Here there will be 100% hit. In the contracts, 40 will be even brighter than in Weintratte, because in Newcastle, he will have more classy partners. Ivan Jurjevic only recently came to Rome, but he can be fired in the near future. The experiment failed. Jurjevic sets, by his own admission, football in the style of death metal. He needs strong, muscular, and tall guys who instill fear in the opponent. And in Rome, Juric got a whole set of techies, whose physique is clearly chrome-plated. Simultaneously, it's not advantageous for Dybala and Sol to remain benched. Plus, Juric didn't get along with the players. During the break of the shameful match with Fiorentina, he had a fight with Mancini. The coach, of course, claims that everything is under control. If the players are not confident in my work, they can tell me, and I will leave. However, it appears this is not true. Frankly, something is off. Rumors about dismissal in the search for a suitable coach. According to Messaggero, the Wolves have a short list of potential coaches. According to Messaggero's information, the Wolves are on the short list, you say. But Ranieri has already ended his career. Yes, that's true, but tell me, Ranieri has already ended his career, hasn't he? Yes, that's true, but Ranieri, literally the lead singer of Scorpions, doesn't sit on the bench. And Claudio wants a couple more farewell tours, the coach announced. I want to say that I have the desire to coach, even though I've already turned down a few offers. We'll see if there will be calls from national teams, but I'm not expecting an invitation from the Italian team. Spalletti is already in charge there. Roma is an interesting option for a legend. Theoretically, you can even compete for the championship in a season. For Claudio, the championship is just one. The same with Leicester. Although in coach's career, there were plenty of chances. But he was catastrophically unlucky, and he regularly stumbled a step away from the titles, taking second places and losing in the finals. I have mixed feelings about Terzic personally. Under him, Roma is largely reverting to Mourinho's style of football. Robust defense, scoring on counters and set plays. This is enough in the cups, but not in the championship. And yet the Wolves want to settle in Saudi Arabia, but he has earned so much that he can end his career right in Saudi Arabia. But he has earned so much that he can end his career right now and live comfortably for the rest of his days. But if he really misses football, Rome offers him a chaotic management, a quality squad, massive support in the stands, and extraordinary ambitions. The risks are high, but if Mancini takes the club to a new level, he will also regain his status as one of the best Italian coaches. Nasser Al-Khelaifi holds multiple roles. Paris Saint-Germain president, head of the European Club Association, Union of European Football Associations, executive committee member, and beIN Sports chief. I think it's not worth saying that there is a clear conflict of interest. beIN Sports is the primary broadcaster of League One. And obviously, the functionary has a lot of opportunities to put pressure on the League One management. For some reason, Fédération Internationale de Football Association is ignoring this issue. Although La Liga president Javier Tebas has long been complaining about the unfair situations. And finally, someone decided to deal with this problem. The French Senate has published a report on the country's football federation, in which it talked about plans to pass a law on the incompatibility between the duty of a board member of the professional league and owning interests or performing functions in a company of a broadcaster. Essentially, they are planning to make a law aimed against Al-Khelaifi. Well, and to avoid similar situations in the future. Honestly speaking, it's about time. One problem, the French are not in a hurry. The report ends with the words, "Nevertheless, considering the parliamentary schedule, it is unlikely that some or all of these proposals will be implemented in the coming months." In general, the news is good, but it might be implemented by the 26th year, or even later. And that's that. Meanwhile, another ugly story involving Ali Khelaifi has surfaced. The passenger played his final match of the season against Toulouse at Parc des Princes in May. Kylian Mbappe's brother Ethan was not included in the application. It was obvious that this was his last season at the club. He wanted to say goodbye to the fans, but according to Leo Quaip Nasser Al-Khelaifi, Luis Enrique personally ordered to remove Ethan from the squad, apparently trying to punish Kylian for leaving the club. When the younger Babe found out, he couldn't hold back the tears. Kylian saw him and went to confront the president. That's when a serious fight broke out between them. They even talked about a brawl, and Frankfurt Ball recognized Ali Khelaifi as the best club president. Just awesome. Manuel Neuer is not a cake anymore. I don't know whether it's the recent injury or just age decline, but in any case, Neuer has given up. This season is so far the worst in Manuel's career in terms of the percentage of shots saved. Earlier, Neuer only had a mere 53%. From the side, it seems that the goalkeeper only has a mere 53%. From the side, it seems like the goalkeeper's lacking confidence. It's somewhat strange, considering the colossal experience he has under his belt. Previously, self-confidence was one of the German's greatest strengths. He soberly assessed situations and was never afraid to make necessary decisions. Now, in many moments, he seems to doubt what he should do. To leave, to stay, to fall, and extra nanoseconds prove to be fatal. Legendary lottery Mateus stated, "I don't want to upset Manuel, but he is not the pillar of the team he used to be. Manuel Neuer is not Manuel Neuer now. His game has changed. He used to anticipate every situation. He had a 360-degree view, and he could start attacks with a pass. Now he can't provide any security in defense." In connection with this, in Bavaria, where they were recently going to extend the contract with the captain, they decided not to rush with the extension. According to Christian Falk's data, the issue is planned to be resolved by the end of the year, but now the club wants to monitor the development of events in the coming months. Based on Manu's game, draw conclusions on whether he should be given a new contract. Therefore, Neuer needs to get involved urgently if he is not ready to end his career. Or go play in Major League Soccer before hanging up his boots. And it's unlikely to be about hanging up his boots. And he's unlikely to play anywhere other than Bavaria. And the Munich residents are already studying the potential new goalkeeper. Porto's Diogo Costa is being considered to replace Neuer. In his contract, there are buyout clauses worth 75 million euros. If Costa will play for Bavaria with euros, it's worth it. But if it's the same Costa who played in the Manchester United versus Porto match, it's better to save the money for someone else. Jurgen Klopp is back at work. True, it's not coaching work. Now the German is running Red Bull. He became the global leader of the company's direction. For what Jurgen was criticized here by Mainz and Borussia Dortmund fans. Well, how so, after all? He was supposed to destroy evil, not join it. The coach responded to the hate. "I avoided overstepping." Not at all. And I love all my former clubs, but I don't know what I could do to make everyone happy. Meanwhile, Klopp is criticized not only for his work at Leipzig, but also for selling his own values. After all, Jurgen Klopp himself criticized the owners of multi-clubs in the past, calling them out in the game. And suddenly Leipzig is the most non-traditional club in Germany. After all, Bulls play the game. And suddenly Leipzig is the most non-traditional club in Germany. After all, the Bulls artfully correspond to the 50+1 rule in the Bundesliga, which states that control over the clubs should remain with the club members, and well, not exactly the owners. In Mainz at the match with, well, not exactly the owners. In Mainz at the match with Leipzig, they hung a banner against Klopp. Did you forget who he made you? But Jurgen doesn't suffer much from criticism and keeps living his best life. Without all these stresses associated with managing a team on the brink, Jurgen was recently a guest on Tony Kroos's podcast. They mainly talked about Klopp's new job. The message was this: don't touch Leipzig. Don't interfere with the development of football in East Germany. I've always had a positive attitude towards this project. Despite this, Tony and Jurgen remembered Sergio Ramos. Klopp asked Kroos if Ramos is a good guy. For some reason, the ex-midfielder responded exclusively about the football qualities of the Spaniard. Klopp criticized Sergio for injuring Salah. It is believed that he acted wisely then, but he could not have known that he would injure Salah's shoulder. And yet he did it. I will never understand this mentality. When I had such footballers in my team, I made sure they left the club. All kinds of tricks and provocations are normal. In the end, they only stay on the field. As Gabriel Magalhaes recently noted, who was hit in the head by a ball from Holland? But deliberately breaking a footballer, of course, is the height of cynicism. Therefore, the club's attitude towards Ramos is easy to understand. Carlo Ancelotti has a remarkable relationship with Florentino Perez based on mutual respect, but even so, the club president doesn't hesitate for a second if he understands that Ancelotti's dismissal will benefit Madrid. He will promptly send him on leave. Lately, the positions of Papa and Carlo have weakened, and more board members are whispering that the coach should be removed. Not very honest in relation to the coach. The players fully support him, and the difficulties are primarily associated with the most difficult task that the leadership has thrown at the coach. And it's unknown who among the coaches can solve it, but football is an unpredictable game. Regardless of who is to blame, in the absence of results, the coach is fired. And if Ancelotti doesn't make adjustments soon, he will end his coaching career. After all, as you remember, Papa Carlo announced that according to Releva, Madrid plans to fire Ancelotti this summer, and this is regardless of the team's results. They might fire him earlier, but only if something really unpleasant happens, like a series of 5 defeats with an exit from the Champions League and the Cup. After this season, the club plans to invite Xabi Alonso instead of him. The replacement's name is expected by most. The Spaniards have been interested in Sliwak Nogo for a long time. Ancelotti will be fired to be hired right away. Madrid will offer the Italian one of the leading positions within the club's structure. I don't know how justified this step is and whether they are in a hurry in Madrid. But who knows when there will be another opportunity to invite Xabi Alonso. After all, he will leave Bayern this summer and probably will stay in the new club for 3 years or more. Therefore, Meringue's intention to act now, to some extent, reminds of the situation with the dismissal of Julian Nagelsmann, who was largely removed due to the availability of Thomas Tuchel. Real may repeat the story of Bayern's failure, but it doesn't really believe it, considering the talent of Xabi Alonso, his reputation in Madrid, and the suitable baggage. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching and for subscribing to the channel. Friends, don't forget that Doza Football now has its own radio show. The link is in the description of this video. Well, my name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and your hanga, friends.